Mickey Mouse debuted 96 years ago. Hello, my name is Rocko, and today we are going over a real old one, Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie. If you don't know what Steamboat Willie is, you've probably seen it somewhere in Disney. If you don't know what Disney is, I think you are actually living under a rock. They are the biggest and most powerful entertainment company in the world. Steamboat Willie came out on November 18th, 1928. This short is famous for two reasons. One, this was one of the first cartoons with sound, as most cartoons didn't have anything like that at the time. I say one of the first because Disney's rival Fleischer Studios did sound cartoons about 4 years ago before Steamboat Willie in 1924. Yeah, Disney likes to rewrite history sometimes. And two, it was the debut of one Mickey Mouse that sent the company into the stratosphere. Steamboat Willie was created by Walt Disney, and I mean, who doesn't know who Walt Disney is? He was an artist, animator, and businessman who created the biggest company in the world today, a legend in the field of animation who changed the game forever. Walt Disney started his career by making Alice in Wonderland shorts, where Alice was transported into the drawing world to interact with Walt's cartoon characters. In 1923, Walt Disney created his own company, Disney Brothers Studios, which later became Walt Disney Studios. Walt started the company with his older brother Roy, who was in California recovering from tuberculosis. The company is also where Walt met his wife Lillian, who was an inker. In 1927, Walt and his studio worked on his first all-cartoon series, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Oswald was created by Walt Disney and his artist Ub Iwerks, who was also a close friend. Unlike most cartoon characters at the time, Oswald had a personality. He was curious, a bit egotistical, and adventurous. Walt said in an interview he wanted his characters to be somebody, not just drawings that moved around. I mean, say what you will about him, but he really was a genius ahead of the curve. Oswald was a hit, and in 1 year's time, Walt wanted to renegotiate a deal with Universal, who helped produce the cartoons. But Universal, being the corrupt corporation they were, hired half of Walt's employees behind his back, said we have the rights to Oswald, and told Walt if he wanted to keep working, he needed to take a 20% pay cut. I mean, what a bunch of jerks! Walt said screw that, obviously, along with his only loyal employee, Ub Iwerks, and proclaimed they would produce the cartoons themselves. They also promised to never give away their characters to a bunch of people who just wanted to make money off their work. And I'm putting a pin in that one for a future video about the public domain. After that debacle, they looked back at their Alice in Wonderland mouse drawings, and Walt had an idea to make a mouse their new character. Now, there is a bit of a story on who created Mickey Mouse. Because during a train ride from New York to Hollywood, after declaring to never give one of his characters to anyone again, Walt drew his first illustration of Mickey Mouse. Only he was quite tall and was called Mortimer Mouse. Ub Iwerks changed the design to the iconic look we see in Steamboat Willie, with a shorter look and a big tummy. Both men should get credit for designing the mouse, even though most of the time Disney wants to write Ub out of the picture. Mortimer was changed to Mickey when Walt's wife said Mortimer was way too scary. Imagine if they did go with the original design and name. Disney could look very different right now. If you're wondering who Ub Iwerks was, he was an animator, cartoonist, creator, and special effects technician, as well as Walt's childhood friend. He was also described as a demon animator who could draw 700 illustrations in one day. 700 drawings in one day? Are you serious? I struggled to do 30. Even though he had half the credit in creating Mickey Mouse, a disagreement with Walt led to him leaving the company 2 years after Steamboat Willie. He did his own stuff for a while, creating his own animation studio and directing some Looney Tunes shorts before in 1940 he returned to Disney, where he worked for the rest of his career. And don't understate his importance. Mickey wouldn't be the icon today if it wasn't for his redesign and the sound work he put into those early cartoons. Walt and friends produced a few shorts with Mickey that weren't released until later, but the creators were inspired by the first film with synchronized sound, so the creators thought to put some sound in the animation. Walt then spent $5,000 to produce Steamboat Willie, which in today's money would be about $88,000. It was well worth it though, as Steamboat Willie was a massive success, telling Walt and friends they needed to go back and put some sound into their other Mickey cartoons. The mouse became an icon, and the rest is history. But the question I'm asking is, does his debut hold up 95 plus years later? Well, since it's in the public domain, I can actually show you this. I'm Rocko from Reading Lore, and let's dive in. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe because we upload videos just like this one on our Reading Lore channel. The short starts with the classic cartoon intro poster fading into the Steamboat Willie title. We truly start on a cruise boat driven by Mickey, who is whistling the famous song you've all heard before. I said this isn't the first cartoon with sound, but it is the first one to have synchronized sound, the whistling matching Mickey's movements. Now, he doesn't speak in this one, but Mickey would later be voiced by Walt Disney himself, until later giving the role to a bunch of other talented people. Mickey's fun is interrupted when his boss Pete shows up and yanks him away from the wheel, and the story with this character, strap in. Pete, who is usually the antagonist in every short he's in, is Disney's oldest character and first villain. He was introduced in 1925 1995, 3 years earlier in the Alice in Wonderland shorts I mentioned earlier, meaning he is 100 years old. There he was bootleg Pete the Cat, trying to steal crossword puzzles for some reason. Pete would be the antagonist of Alice and Julius the Cat, who is totally not a ripoff of Felix the Cat. They're completely different. But when Universal stole the Oswald series, they kept Pete, but Disney also used Pete. This one was Pete the Cat, which is who we see in this short. Both companies technically own the character, as in Universal owned the bear version shown in Oswald, but Disney owned the cat version used in those Alice in Wonderland shorts. So for a couple years, because of muggy copyright laws, Pete would appear in both Mickey and Oswald cartoons. Walt wanted to give Pete a personality, so he based the character on Wallace Beery, who played a lot of villains in TV and film at the time. I've never seen anything with him in it, so I don't know, but I'm sure he was great. Pete doesn't have a voice here, but later he was voiced by Walt before Billy Bletcher, a professional voice actor, stepped in and gave Pete his iconic gravelly voice. Anyways, Pete yells some gibberish at Mickey, telling him to go back on deck. Pete then takes a bite out of something. I'm not sure what it is, maybe chewing tobacco or chocolate or something, before his teeth opens up like a mechanism and spits out the black ink. I wonder at this stage if anyone drawing this realized 90 years later, a group of game designers will make a horror game about a devil character in this animation style. If you didn't catch on at this stage, back in the day they used rubber hose cartoon physics, where everyone around the characters are moving in weird ways. It shows off the impressive animation and drives home the goal of bringing the whole world to life. They are apparently transporting farm animals on this boat, which is why they make a stop to pick up a cow. Mickey tries to hook it up, but the cow is too skinny, so he comes up with the logical solution of overfeeding the cow hay until it's fat enough to lock on. This is when we see, kind of for the first time, Minnie Mouse, Mickey's female counterpart and love interest. Minnie was created by Walt and Ub during the production of Plane Crazy, the short Disney produced first but released later. She was created to be Mickey's love interest, but also the foil to his antics. Minnie was characterized as a free spirit doing whatever she wanted. She was based off the Flapper Girls from the 1920s, who went against social norms of women back then. You know, the stay-at-home, cook and clean norms. They instead went to jazz clubs, got drunk, dated tons of men, and partied constantly. I think this was a good character layout for Minnie. I mean, sure, Disney fell into the trap of making her the damsel in distress / reward for Mickey instead of focusing on her character, but what can you do? It was the 20s. She doesn't have a voice here, and Walt would voice her in small bits, but her first real voice actor was Marjorie Elizabeth Marge Norton Ralston. She was an inker chosen by Walt himself after hearing all the employees audition for the role. She only voiced her in 3 shorts before she begged Walt to stop because she was so shy. The role was taken over by Marcelette Gardner, who was chosen by Marge. For the next 10 years, Marcelette voiced Minnie and is the iconic voice for the female mouse and who gave her the free spirit personality. Marcelette was an artist and voice actor who worked for Disney at the time as an inker. The reason she was picked too is kind of silly, because when Marge backed out, they were doing a short where Minnie had to speak Spanish and sing, and Marcelette was the only woman in the studio who could do both. As for this story, I don't know why Minnie is trying to get on the boat if it's just transporting animals, but Mickey sees this and does hook her over. And this hook is apparently a perv because it upskirts Minnie. When she is on the boat, a goat eats the sheet music and guitar that Minnie brought because goats eat everything. While fighting with the goat, Mickey and Minnie realize that since he ate the music, they could turn the tail like a music box. Mickey joins in by adding some percussion, which I really like, and he plays the bass drum with his tail. I haven't said this yet, but the animation still holds up today and was leagues above everyone else at the time. Even now, it's still free-flowing and impressive. We then get something strange. Some people don't know this, but old school Mickey was a massive jerk sometimes. I mean, he starts using the animals on the boat as an instrument. He twirls around a poor cat and the sound he makes is horrible. It's kind of horrific. From a technical standpoint though, this is amazing. Having sound in anything back then was rare, and hearing all these sounds synchronizing with the animation shows how talented the production team was. I mean, yeah, Fleischer had sound cartoons as well, but everything here is just synced up with the animation perfectly. Even Mickey whistling is synced up. The process was grueling as well, since they had a band play and they had to hit all the synced up beats with the animation. It sounds like it was a drag. Back to the Mickey thing, to be honest, during his earlier unreleased stories, Mickey was worse. For instance, he forced Minnie to kiss him in Plane Crazy, but thankfully after his initial shorts, he became the Mickey we all know and love. This was because Walt and Ub characterized him like a troublemaker in the first Mickey Mouse episode produced. Walt soon realized it would be better if he had a more cheerful, playful, and heroic personality, so he would be a better role model. That was absolutely the right call because he's still around today and loved by everyone. Even though he doesn't have a voice here, you can already see that personality shine through, mostly in how he moves. No pun intended, he's very animated, bouncing around like he's the happiest mouse to ever live. He's cheery, he's playful, he wants to have fun, and that strikes a chord with whoever's watching. Using movements to help define a character would be a go-to trick Disney still uses to this day. The reason this resonated so well with everyone is because, unintentionally or not, Walt modeled Mickey after himself. Some of Mickey's earliest adventures are retelling of Walt's childhood experiences, like him as a farm boy, for example. Mickey stays determined to accomplish his goals, whether it was rescuing Minnie or Pluto or taking down the evil Pete, because Walt stayed determined to make his cartoon successful. Pete then shows up mad and throws Mickey in the basement to carve potatoes as a punishment, and honestly, it's deserved. Mickey brought Minnie on board without a ticket, goofed off by playing music, and abused all of the animals. This is also a strange way to end the cartoon. Instead of our hero jamming out with the girl, he's locked up carving potatoes while throwing some at a bird and it just ends. Why not, I guess? Alright, the episode's over, but how does it rank? How do my rankings work? Well, there are 4 criteria for my ratings. First is characterization. How characters are depicted factors greatly into the ratings. If they are clearly defined and showcased, then they rank higher. Second is story. How the story progresses from start to finish factors into the ratings. If it's dynamic and interesting, it gets a high score. If it's plotting and boring, it gets a low score. Third is entertainment. How fun something is plays a big part. If you're not enjoying what you're watching, there's no point in viewing. Fourth is importance. How necessary is it for you to watch? In our new world of streaming and rewatching, there's too much to watch. If something is noteworthy, it gets a high score. If it's something you can live with missing, it gets a low score. They will be judged in 5s, 5 being the best and 0 being the worst. However, on certain occasions, if I think something is truly noteworthy, I will go above or below certain parameters. If I think something is exceptionally good, I will give it a 6 or higher. If I think something is exceptionally horrendous, I will go lower than 0. Characterization gets a 4. I felt like everyone, despite the small runtime, got across their characters very well. We needed more time to really nail their personalities, but this was a good start. The story can get a 3. The story is fine for a short runtime, but the ending is a bit low energy and lackluster. It doesn't really matter though, this was about the animation, not really the story. Entertainment gets a 5. This is incredibly entertaining almost 100 years later with fluid animation and great characters. Importance also gets a 5. This changed animation as we know it. I feel like it makes it pretty darn important and a must-watch. I think Steamboat Willie still holds up to this day, and it's how Disney got its first big break. Mickey Mouse went on to be an icon with over 400 projects to his name. At his peak, people would complain at theaters when they didn't play a Mickey Mouse cartoon before a movie. Big stars like Charlie Chaplin endorsed the mouse and would pay to have those cartoons play before his films. Now in the modern day, you can't go anywhere without seeing some form of Mickey around you. If aliens descended from above one day, like billions of years after we're all dead, they'll think we worshipped a mouse as a god. Oswald, on the other hand, I really want to talk about him in another video, but let's just say he had a pretty wild ride. As for Disney, while they went on to be one of the leading figures in entertainment with so many technical marvels and classics to their name, in recent years they have been struggling a bit, but that's a story for another day. Let me know what you think of this video. It's a little different from the action shows we usually cover, but I'd love to look at some of the darker animations by Disney and Fleischer and go over some Oswald the Lucky Rabbit if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later.